Hi, it's Jim, the Iowa Tesla guy. Welcome back to the channel. In a previous video, I showed the installation of some Tesla mud flaps, and I talked about how I thought that that was a sign that Tesla was admitting that they had a design flaw with their Model Y. That around the same time, they put out two different products for the Model Y. Mud flaps for the front only, and a small piece of PPF film that goes over the back of the lower part of the rear door. And what I found is I've got about 2,000 miles on my Model Y, and if you look really close at the lower door, it is pretty much peppered with really small paint chips. And on my red Model Y, they show up as white, and it is very noticeable. It's almost like a dusty haze in many places, and it really makes it look like the car is dirty when it's in fact not dirty. And those of you that have seen my original video of the experience that I had picking up my Model Y last November, I noted in that video that I had a paint problem on the back side of the passenger door that was scratched on the edge, and it was that way when I got the car. And the service center said, yes, no problem, we'll deal with it. And it took me a while to negotiate with them. I live about three and a half hours from a nearest service center, so I really didn't want to deal with that. Sounded like they were going to have to completely repaint the door. The scratch is about, I don't know, about that long. And it's white right on the edge of a door. And I thought, being that it's right on the edge of the door and it's pretty low, maybe touch-up paint would work out well. And I wanted to know if Tesla would send me the touch-up paint, and that turned into a saga in itself. A lot of back and forth, a lot of waiting. Turns out the service center claimed that they had no idea how to order touch-up paint and send it to somebody, so I ended up having to, the service center ended up doing a great job because they ended up contacting me. I didn't have to contact them in the last contact. They reached out to me. They said, I think you have a solution. Go on the store, buy it, and then give us a receipt of what we bought, and we will send you a check. And I did all that, and I actually got the check, so it's all good. So in this video, I'm going to go over basically step 2 of my process of dealing with what I call a design flaw in the Model Y, which is dealing with the paint and the touch-up paint. So hopefully I'll be able to correct the touch-up paint, and hopefully I will be able to get it all prepped and ready to go before I put on my third step, which is the PPF film that goes in that lower section. Getting ready to go on a big trip to Colorado, from Iowa to Colorado, and then from Colorado down to New Mexico and back. It's going to be my first big road trip, and I really want to have that PPF and everything installed before that trip. So let me show you how this all works. Right, so this is the kit that you get from Tesla, and in it is a number of things. You've got the paint, you've got what's called a blending solution. It comes with a microfiber cloth, a rubbing tool. Now the toothpicks and the alcohol swab I provided, and then they also provide you with an applicator and some blending rags as well as some rubber gloves. So it's winter outside, and I need to be able to deal with this paint, but it's clearly the car is cold, so I'm going to use a heat gun here just to see if I can bring the temperature of the paint up to a level where I can put the touch-up paint on it. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the surface is free of any sort of materials that I may have had as far as cleaning materials or anything like that. And I'm just going to hit it with an alcohol pad, hopefully, to take care of that. Now this didn't come with the paint, but I figured this might help kind of do the job. And from what I can tell, it might be working okay. So we're just going to hit that and then let that air dry. Now in the kit they provide you with 2 different applicators. They've got this rather traditional brush, and they've got this little Q-tip looking thing. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. I'm going to start with the small one and kind of see how that works out. the instructions actually say apply a dot above the chip and use the squeegee and squeegee down over it. And I saw a video on YouTube a while back, and for the life of me, I can't remember who it was from, or I can't find it in my history, so I apologize for not being able to give this person credit. But they said, and from what I saw, they had much better results by applying the paint directly on the chip and not using the squeegee at all, just letting it sit there. Put it on a nice thin coat and just let it sit there and let it dry for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And the instructions say that you can have it for as much as 60 minutes without doing the blending solution. So hopefully this technique is going to work for me. You're kind of seeing it as I go in real time, so I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work. Hopefully it'll work out well, and I'll show you the results, good or bad. Also going to touch a couple of these paint chips. They're all over the place. Well, some of the bigger ones here. And the more I look at this, the more these paint chips exist. I mean, they're everywhere. Hit this with another layer here. You can start seeing some of the white that's under it. And I'm just going to let that dry. Okay, so I got the paint on, and it's by far not covering everything. And from what I can tell, the white hazy peppering that I can do, there's only so much I'm going to be able to do with the touch-up paint unless I just cover the whole thing, and I don't want to do that. So I really kind of focused on hitting the high points and the chips. All right, we've let the paint dry, and it's been about 30-45 minutes, and the next step is to go over it with this, what they call blending solution, which should just kind of remove the excess paint and only leave what is inside the chip, at least hopefully. Reading the directions, this stuff's pretty toxic. It says it's not good on your skin. It's probably why they gave the rubber gloves, so I'll definitely be using those for this. And I just assume that I apply some of this material to the white paper that they gave us, or the white pads, and from there just gently brush on the areas that I touched with the touch-up paint, and hopefully that'll be it. Okay, now it's time for the blending solution. It says to shake this up really well, and you can see this is where I hit it with the paint. So we're gonna go ahead and do what it says, which is to apply liberally the blending solution. And then it says with a flat hand, we're gonna just let the chemical do the work. Basically, no pressure. I can feel a little bit of resistance on the area that I covered with the paint. See, I'm getting some paint off onto the rag here. I don't want to take off too much. I think for that area, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the areas that I touched up with the paint chips. Okay, we're going to end with just hitting it lightly with a microfiber cloth here that they provide. So I already can see that I missed a couple of places for the blending solution. I'm finding that you actually have to, since I decided to let it dry pretty much, you have to kind of hit it with a little more force, a little pressure on this. But at least for the red, I'm actually pretty happy with the color match. It's nearly identical, and it's actually the places that I went over, even though the blending solution didn't hit it incredibly flush. I'm finding that it's actually quite difficult to see the areas that I hit with the touch-up paint. Overall, I think I'm satisfied with that. I may actually go back in this area down here where you can see and I can feel more of those areas, but I may do those later. But overall, I think I'm relatively happy with how that turned out. Now that I've had a chance to do the blending solution on the rest of the car, I noticed that right here you can still see that chip, and I might have rubbed off a little too much. So I'm going to go back and apply a second coat of the red paint here in a little bit, and maybe not let it dry quite so long, maybe more like 5 or 10 minutes, and see what I can do to maybe clean that up a little bit better. Okay, this time I applied a second coat, and I'm going to go ahead this time and try and use the squeegee here. See what happens. I can already tell that I do not like how that worked out. It pretty much just scraped off everything that I did. So I'm going to go ahead and reapply. So I'm done with the touch-up paint. Am I entirely happy with how it turned out? Not 100%. Is it good enough? Probably yes. Fortunately, I find that the color match with the metallic red that I have, the multi-coat red that I have, is actually pretty good. The technique of applying it and letting it totally dry seemed to work out relatively well for me on the actual paint chips. I really wish I could cover more of them. I still might choose to cover more of them, but the more I look at it, the more that there's just kind of a haze, sandblasty kind of look to the lower part of the door, and there's just no way I'm going to be able to cover that. But the big chip areas that I covered seem to turn out okay. And here is a photo of kind of how the door ended up. As far as the big chip or the big scratch that I look to repair, overall, because it's on the edge of the door, it's not very noticeable, and I think once I get the PPF on there, it'll be even less noticeable. So I guess overall I'm okay with it. So I guess your mileage may vary based on the touch-up paint and how well it works for you and the color of your car. All I know is how it worked on red, and overall it's okay. I still think there is a design flaw with the Model Y that Tesla just doesn't want to talk about, which is that because of the aerodynamic shape, it just tends to pick up and throw up all kinds of dirt and debris and materials on that back little flare out on the door. And I think the acknowledgement of the availability of the mud flaps and the PPF that they're offering is Tesla's way of saying, without saying it, we have a problem. And do I regret any of buying the Model Y? Absolutely not. Still love this car, but I do wish that they deal with this issue from the factory, and I think mud flaps and PPF probably should be installed as standard, in my opinion. However, a lot of people said they don't know what happens with the range, and they may have to get re-EPA tested, but I do think this is a tweak that they could probably figure out somehow on their own and improve it and make it better. So next step in this process will be me doing the PPF install, and we'll see how that goes. So if you like this video, please like it. It really helps the channel if you subscribe. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks.